Welcome to She's Crafted to Thrive. Welcome. If you are new here, thank you so much for joining us. If you are a longtime listener, thank you so much for the support. I am super excited about this episode. Our guest is Miss Kate Caraco. She is a licensed social worker and a physiotherapist and a confidence and mindset coach and writer who mentors female leaders around the globe. Why am I so excited? Well, if you're in the industry of business coaching, Kate is one of the ladies that you probably follow, or even if you're not, if you're a female entrepreneur and you're looking for just confident and authentic and positive conversations and thoughts, this is a lady you should be following if you are not. And I'm so excited that she is sharing her journey and her story and her tips and her gems with us on the show. She is a new author of a book called Thinking Like a Boss that was released back in February 2020. And she hosts a podcast called Thinking Like a Boss Weekly, where she shares and equips women to stop believing the lies holding them back from success and to begin believing the truth that they are capable of turning their dreams into their reality. She's been featured and shown on different podcasts and telesummits, as well as publications such as Huffington Post, Best Kept Self, She Knows, and Blog Her. I am so excited to have her on the show. You have no idea. As far as it goes for goals and like my podcast journey, Kate is a woman that I was recently introduced to, and I just love her authentic vibe and her realness, and just her book that we're going to kind of talk about a little bit in the show is so powerful, because I truly believe a lot of the things that hold us back are the things that aren't the things that are coming from the outside in. It's the things that are coming from the inside out. And I am so excited to have her on the show and for her to share her expertise in this area of building confidence and having a better mindset. So stay tuned for sure and get all the goodies. Welcome to She's Crafted to Thrive. I'm your host, Nikita Williams, and this show is for all the ladies who are making and creating things that they love. You will hear conversations about the real everyday struggles of juggling life and business while trying to maintain passion and harmony. As women, we have the skill of getting things done, but sometimes we get in our own way. It's here where you'll see that you're not alone. You'll discover that success does not mean perfection. Fear and negative thoughts and challenges are all a part of the journey. And on this podcast, you'll find the inspiration and tools you need to have a life and business that thrives. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so excited. And I know there's not that many men probably listening, but this is for all the ladies who are looking for some confidence in their life. And I have the fabulous Miss Kate Caraco on the show, and I'm just so excited to have her here. You heard the intro a little bit before what she does, but I would love for you to introduce yourself.
Thank you so much for having me today. This is exciting just to have this conversation. So yeah, I'm going to warn everyone, I'm a little bit under the weather, so I don't really sound quite myself, but it's all good.
It's all good.
Yeah.
We're all under the weather at times, I feel like.
Yeah, that's true. That is very true. So I am Kate Caraco. I'm a confidence and mindset coach for female entrepreneurs. I'm also a psychotherapist. I'm a mama to 2 little girls, and also a rescue dog named Turbo. I have a husband. We live in New York, and I just recently wrote a book called Thinking Like a Boss. I love the work that I do, and it really sort of stemmed from pain in my past and, experiencing a lot of mental pain and wanting to take that story, like after finding healing, wanting to take that story and to be able to help other people who are experiencing pain in life. And that's sort of how I got to where I am today.
It is so beautiful that you are in a place to share your story and share your gems along the way that probably didn't feel like gems while you were going through life.
Not at all.
It's really nice to hear that you are sharing that with women and helping them, empowering them to figure out how to take those journeys and make them into something great and magnificent, like awesome and helping other people. Your book, Thinking Like a Boss, first of all, the title is amazing.
Thank you.
And ladies, I've read half of this book. I haven't gotten through the whole thing because my life has been crazy, as you guys have listened to the podcast. But I want to delve first into the book because there's something in this book from the very beginning, few pages that I read, and I just I put the book down and it's just like, oh my gosh, wow. Like, you know, when you have conversations with yourself and you're thinking it's just in your head, it's just you, it's just what you're thinking. No one else is thinking this, all of these things. You lay it out like right in the first couple of pages, like, look, this is what it is. Everybody thinks this. And it's so affirming to know that no one is alone in the journey that we're going through. We just might experience it differently, but we're all going through just different things and we can conquer them. And that's what I feel like your book talks about and shows us how to do that. There's this page, and it's probably not in the very beginning, and I'm going to open it up because it is page 62. And I don't know why it hit me so hard, but I'm going to read it if that's okay.
Yeah, please.
Okay.
I don't even remember what page 62 was, so I'm on the edge of my seat right now.
Yeah, it's under the part where you're talking about how to feel qualified like a boss. And it's this paragraph that just hit me, and I'm sure it's going to hit everyone else that's listening. But it starts off by saying this process is never ending. We continually strive to be better and do better and become better. With each day we are alive. Yet we don't put things on hold while we wait to climb higher. We have skills to give and things to offer in the place we're at today. We are qualified as we are. We are constantly learning new things. Your present self is always more capable than your past self, simply because you have learned through your challenges and experiences. You, my friend, are already an expert. I get goosies just reading that out loud. Like I read that out loud after I read it in my head, and I was like, I got to read that again. And I feel like this is a place that so many women get stuck in. It's feeling like we're not enough to be like that person.
Totally. It's funny because not funny, but this morning I had a coaching call with a client who has a multi-million-dollar business. And she's talking about how she doesn't feel qualified to teach other people how to run a business. And, you know, this is something that I really learned working with the women I've worked with and also having mentors and like being around people who, I mean, we look at them, right? I'm like, oh my God, even $1 million or a multiple six-figure business. Like, I want to learn from you. And no matter where you're at, when that lie hits, it's real. And lies, they can hit anyone. You know, there's like, no one is exempt from struggling with one of these lies. And I think it's really just the thing that I think helps people the most with this book is simplifying it and not making the process difficult. And, you know, just like telling yourself these mantras all the time, like, I'm an expert where I am today because today I know more than I knew yesterday. Yeah. And I even think of like my one little daughter, she's 2.5 and my other daughter is 17 months. And the 2.5-year-old has been teaching the 17-month-old how to brush her teeth. And she's not an expert at brushing her teeth, but she has something to share. And she's an expert where she's at right now because the 17-month-old has no idea how to do it. So I think that we forget that. Like we think we have to know all these things in order to be qualified or in order to be respected. And it's really just about teaching where you're at today because there's someone who literally is in your footsteps yesterday who wants to know what you have to say today.
Yeah. It's beautiful. That is a good reminder. So I wanted to first start the show off with that because I was just like, she needs to know how profound that like hit me. Like that just hit me. So I don't think I could have put it in words that way. And I think for me dealing with a chronic illness and a lot of the listeners who listen, I feel like the fact that we are struggling with so many physical things and like mental things, even that just to think of ourselves in a way of like, I can help someone learn something. Like we think it's so trivial. Like that's, everybody knows how to do that. But in actuality, they don't. And that's why they're looking, or they're not where you are. Or your experiences make you uniquely qualified to share that in a different way. And I just thank you for sharing that. Thank you. So please tell us a little bit about your work as a therapist, like what brought you to this path in life. I know if everybody gets the book, you'll learn a little bit about this because she shares this along the way. But since you're tuning in, tell us a little bit about that, Kate.
Yeah, so I went to grad school to be a social worker. And ultimately, I always wanted to work one-on-one with individuals, to do individual therapy. And back in the day, I really believed it would be a lifetime of working at a non-for-profit or a hospital before being capable and qualified to open a private practice. And that was sort of what we were taught in grad school too. Like you work your whole life, sort of like sacrificing your life a little bit, like not getting paid a lot to be able to retire and do private practice. And I was feeling really burnt out as a social worker and realized, like, what am I waiting for? And when I look back, I'm like, wow, I was really bold to believe this because everyone around me was telling me, like, this is not possible. But something within made me curious and thought, like, what if I actually started to do the research? What if I actually started to put some of these steps in place? And I think that curiosity can get you so far in life if you just follow those questions. And little by little, I started to put all the little steps in place in order to open a private practice. And before I knew it, they were all there. And all I needed to do was make the website live. And, I worked through so many fears, so many lies. Like I was really doing it alone at that time. I had one other friend who was attempting practice like me too. But that's all that we had. And we didn't have like a ton of resources. We were both very, very broke. So we didn't have money to invest in like a course. The website that I signed up for was, I think it was like $29 a month because it had like a booking system through it and everything. And I remember like wondering, like, I hope I can pay this. Like, this is a lot of money for me. And being really nervous to tell my husband too. Like, is he gonna think I'm being like frivolous with our money? And it all ended up working out because, again, I took those scary steps little by little. And every day I did something else that felt scary, like going and networking or getting on a call with someone to tell them about my practice. And before I knew it, I had a full practice. And that was about within, I would say, 3.5 to 4 months. I was at a place where I was making the same on a Saturday as I was in my 9 to 5. So I was at a crossroads, and the work I was doing on Saturday really felt fulfilling and felt like this is what I want to do. So I just started to save up money, and eventually within, not too long I was able to have enough money saved to have like a month or two of income, and was able to give that notice at my 9 to 5. And like every step was really scary and difficult, but it all sort of built on each other. And, I think through the difficulties that I had as a first-time business owner, learning to sort of work through each one of those challenges is really what prepared me to eventually open up this other business. And it was almost like an accident in a way. Like I thought I would be a private practice therapist forever. Like, I'm like, this is what I'm doing. This is my calling. This is wonderful. And then a couple things happened, and I just really felt this pull and these like words on my heart that I needed to share my story. Because for years I had struggled with an eating disorder before having a business. And I found healing when I was in graduate school. And I was at a place actually when I was in graduate school, I did one of those really scary prayers, which if you don't really mean it, don't do it, because
yeah,
you're going to have to follow through with it. But I said, God, if you can heal me from this eating disorder, I promise I will use this story to share about you and to spread your love to other people. And at the time, it was sort of a half-hearted prayer. I really wanted to get better, but I was like, there's no way I'm going to use this story. Like, I'm not telling anyone that I struggled with this. And it came back to me at that time. And I just felt like there's got to be a way that someday I can talk about this, that I can normalize this, because life is so different on the other side now. And I remember when I was struggling with that pain of the eating disorder, I never, there's no way I could have envisioned my life being what it is today.
Yeah.
I would just, lay there in bed, crippled over in pain because I literally was starving. And could just, all I would think about was what I could eat next, that would it make me gain weight? And there was no other purpose. That was my purpose and that was it. So I decided, eventually, again, through many scary steps and imperfect steps and falling and getting back up, that I would weave my story into this new business and support other people who are struggling with the lies that they tell themselves. And that's sort of how we came to this business today.
There were a lot of things in that. I feel like so many of us are with you, we're clinging to every word that you're saying, because I think we've all been in a space, or whether it's a mental illness, whether it's a chronic illness, or whether it's just life hurdles that are just out of this world insane, where you have to start making choices that scare you more than your current situation, in a way that you're holy moly, what am I doing? How is this going to be? Why am I making this decision? I don't think that's ever going to happen, but doing it anyway. And I think there's the beauty and the triumph and the courage and the bravery, that when you get to where you're just even 3 steps ahead of that and you look back and you're like, whoa, it gives you that confidence to be okay, this is moving. This is scary, but it's moving. And I think we need more women sharing that story of the real, the raw, it's not perfect making these decisions. It's not easy making these decisions. It doesn't feel good to make some of these decisions, to choose to live or think differently. And I think it's more about thinking differently than it is before you can live differently. And I think that's what you are sharing with your stories, that you kind of have to put the action before. You have this thing in your book called Fake It Till You Become It.
Yeah.
Which is so good, because it's we've all heard it, fake it till you make it, but fake it till you become it what does that mean? What are you saying when you say that?
Yeah. So visualizing your future self, that person that you really want to be. And maybe it's a mentor or a leader that you look up to, or, maybe it's, you want to be a mom someday. So envisioning what that would look like and how you would act. Or you just, want to open a business and be a business owner. So sort of taking those same action steps that future self would take. So I always like to say, act as if you're already in that place. So let's just talk about business. Act as if you're already in that place and treat your business like you're there already. So be really choosy with who you say yes to. Be really careful with your time. Really try to surround yourself with people who are ahead of you. And when you can do that, it just starts to become a normal part of your life. And it doesn't feel like such a stretch to get there. And then the other thing that I also want to say is that that person that you're like faking to become, you actually are that person underneath. Like that's you already. It's just you needing to work up the courage to act as if you're that person. But that's you already. That's you underneath all of those layers right now of fear, of insecurity, of the lies you're telling yourself. And I think that these concepts get easier the more that we practice, because when you can look at past evidence and see, oh, wow, like I faked it till I became it and, open the business, right? Like I took those little steps. I wasn't sure if I was actually going to open that therapy practice, but I sort of faked it. And then I walked into that place that I was able to become it. And I didn't feel like I was at that place yet. But with time, when I was able to build my confidence, to be able to not feel as insecure and tell myself those lies anymore, that person just sort of bloomed and came to the surface. So that's true for all of you right now. Like whatever it is that you really want to do in the future, just start acting like you're that person already, because that's really who you are underneath everything.
I think it just takes time. I feel like it's like we have to put ourselves in thinking about it and use affirmations like we were talking about earlier. But I'm curious, how would you do that if you, for example, and I'm going to use myself because I mirror myself, because there's so many listeners that are listening who are going through this. I know that for us, we're faking it a lot. Let's be honest. Like with my chronic illness, no one can see it anyway. So it's like, you can't physically see, oh, she's dealing with this pain. She's dealing with this. And, all the other things everybody else deals with on the day-to-day basis. So I'm constantly faking it on the outside, but sometimes that energy of faking it can take away from me personally, my energy for everything else. And so what do you say to women who are battling different chronic illnesses or chronic pain or chronic circumstances where they feel like their energy is just zapped from just trying to, endure what they're going through in order to get to be thinking about, I'm going to be the next, I don't know, Oprah Winfrey or something like that. Like how do you transform that?
That's a really good question. And I think this is almost like the opposite answer, is to be very vulnerable and to learn to feel comfortable sharing exactly what you're going through. Because I think in that circumstance, sort of faking it does not always serve you, because you're like, I'm smiling, I'm spending all of this energy, like trying to put this mask on and be this person. And, I think that it's even more exhausting. And I think if you could just show up, even if you're feeling, awful, but just sort of putting it out there. And, I think like having our own business, it's such a beautiful thing because we can be honest, we can be raw. And, like if it's every day that you're feeling like that, just sharing that message of like, this is really hard and I'm still running my business and I'm still making an impact. And I still have goals in the future that I really want to work toward. But I think that if you're putting sort of that mask on all the time, like it's going to make it even harder to get there.
Yeah.
And I sort of found that when I remember when I first became pregnant, I had horrible morning sickness and I literally could not get out of bed. Like the doctors prescribed me like a very strong medication. Nothing worked. I just felt miserable all the time. And I didn't tell anyone for months. I was afraid that people would think less of me, that they would think I wasn't a serious business owner, or that they would just judge that I wouldn't be able to show up 100% for my business and for my clients. And it was a lie that I told myself. And it was so hard. Like I felt like I had to fake it for a while. And it wasn't, again, like the good kind of faking.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I realized, you know what, I've got to just let go. I've got to just tell people how hard this is. I'm struggling, that I'm pregnant. And once I did that, it was like this huge sigh of relief. And it started to feel easier because it felt a little bit more normalized. And people understood, like people had sympathy, or not, I shouldn't say sympathy, but empathy. Mm-hmm. And I felt like my clients actually respected me more that they knew. So I'd encourage any of you who are struggling just to try, like take a small step and share with someone. And, you know, don't do this alone. And I know that's your big thing, is like having community.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most important thing, that you have a circle of people that you can just talk to about this, that you can, you know, somehow weave it into your business, mm-hmm. or just be open about it in your business, because people respect that.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I have learned that myself. You know, I was like, the reason I use myself as an example, because that energy is life sucking. It doesn't give you a place to share or to create, because you're constantly putting yourself down. You're not being truthful. There's no truth except in the pain that you're experiencing. You don't have the space to give, because you're trying to say that everything on here, it's normal, and it's really not normal. You know, you're like, oh yeah, I was in the hospital last night, but yeah, I'm here. And you're like, no, like, you know, crazy things like that. It's okay to be open. And I think in a society in general for women, we have always been kind of in an opposite kind of way, that if we show that vulnerability to people, it means that we're weak. And it's the exact opposite. I believe it takes a lot more courage, a lot more bravery to say, you know what? No, I'm not doing good. But I'm here. So be happy that I showed up. And secondly, you know, I'm doing my best, and that's all I can ever expect of anybody else. And that's all anybody should expect of me, is doing my best. And so I love that you shared that there's a right kind of faking it, and then there's a wrong kind of faking it.
Yeah.
So in your book, you talk about different like steps on like getting through these lies that we tell ourselves. There are lots of them in the book, y'all. Y'all have to read it. But what is one that you particularly continue to struggle with, even still, the most? Because I feel like when people read a book, they think, oh, this person has this perfectly together now. And it's like, no, they're still human. So they're still working on these things, because it's like a muscle. You have to keep working at it. So what is something that for you personally that you're just like, I got to keep this going?
So I at times continually struggle with every single line in the book. And I will say that in writing the book, I've never struggled so much in my life. I think that putting it on paper just really sort of magnified it for me. And here's the thing. If you're struggling with any of these lies, it's hard to accept this, but it's actually a good thing, because it means that you're moving forward. If you were content in life and you didn't have goals, like life could be pretty comfortable, right? Like go to your job, come home, watch TV, eat dinner, go to bed, same thing every day. Like you're not really putting yourself outside your comfort zone. So you may not struggle with this stuff as much. But when you are continually reaching goals and then creating new goals and reaching more goals, you're going to struggle at every new level. And I think the two main struggles for me are first, the lie that I can't be a good mom and be a business owner. And that's something that I feel like, at many times I'm like, can I really do this? I don't know. I was able to overcome it to a certain extent, but it's like now, like going to this next level in my business, can I still be a good mom and a business owner? And I just have to remind myself, if I got through that before, I'll get through it again. And then I think the next lie, like this is probably the number one lie that I struggle with, is that there's not enough time. And I know that there's plenty of time for the people and the things that mean the most to you. But I think that sometimes we have dreams, we have ambition, and some of us are a little impatient. I don't know if you struggle with that.
Yes.
Where you just want to make it all happen now. Like you want all the time in the world. You want to find as much time because you don't want to wait.
Right.
And I think that's what I really struggle with. Cause I know there's plenty of time, you know, like if I want to spend time hanging out with certain people or family members, like I can find the time. If I want to accomplish a goal, like I can find the time, but it's those like big goals and those places that I want to go to next that I really struggle. Like I'm trying to, you know, set even more boundaries with people or with my schedule, to find more time, because I think that there's always more time to find. Mm-hmm. And we can do that when, we really set a limit with ourselves and with others. But it's a hard one.
Yeah. So I kind of want to go back to something that I've been hearing throughout our chat that I think some people are curious about. And I feel like, and you kind of touch on this a little bit in the book as far as I've gotten, you guys, but there's something that you've mentioned that is like you've made these choices. Mm. So when you are like going through it, you're at your lowest low, you've got all these different things that are fear, these lies you're telling yourselves. What is the switch? What is the tweak to say, I need to make a different choice? Like, what is that? How do you get to that point to say, I need to make that change?
Honestly, for myself, it's usually when I feel so overwhelmed, so in my head, the first reaction is to do more, right? Like do more thinking, do more work, find more time. But what I find helps the most is doing less. So like completely turning off, like last night I needed to do that. I just felt like I have so much to do, and it sounds counterintuitive, but I'm like, I'm turning off this computer, getting away from my phone, and I'm just going to like play on the floor with the girls. And when you can really just turn off, like your whole mind, your body, everything resets, and you start to get that energy back. And once it's back, when you go back to whatever it was that you're working on, it feels a little bit easier. Your mind's a little clearer. So I always say, like, don't push. Mm. And that's I know
that's so hard.
Yeah.
She's like, you guys should see her face when she said that. She's like, yeah, I know that's hard. Like, that's hard.
It's really hard. But the other thing too, it's like, it's a lot of surrender. Mm. So I tell myself at times, you know, I've done everything in my power that I can do with the resources that I have, with the time that I have, with the capabilities and qualifications that I have right now. I've done the best that I can do. And I just have to surrender and just let whatever's supposed to happen. Because the more I try to strategize or push something, the more resistance I get.
Yeah.
So even like with this book launch, there was a period of time where I was like, I think I need to do all these things. Like, I need to get like another publicist, and I need this and that. And I need to like find a lot of money to put into Facebook ads. And then I realized like, those are just not resources available to me right now. Unless I want, you know, maybe go into debt.
Right.
Which is not good right now.
Right.
And I am doing the best that I can. And I'm just going to surrender because there's nothing else I can do. Like, I'm doing the best I can. And what's supposed to happen is going to happen. And me pushing is not going to get me further. It's only going to make me feel really tired and really grumpy. And then when you don't reach your goal, you feel even worse, right? Because you've wasted resources that you don't have, or wasted time that you don't have.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good reminder that our energy produces our reality in a sense. I think like it kind of like if we're pushing through trying to be creative and you're like not feeling it, what you about to produce ain't gonna be so pretty. Like, it's just not gonna work. Or like, even like you were saying with your book, if you had kind of like, you could have gotten to a point where like, yeah, the book's done, but like I'm broke, my family hates me, everything sucks. So what is the point? Like, what's the point at that point? Right. So I really like what you said, just being okay with surrendering and then coming back to it. That's a beautiful point.
Thank you.
So the ladies who are listening to the show right now, who's like, okay, so I'm thinking about starting a business, or I have a business. Where can they start thinking like a boss? Like, where should they start? Like right now?
Okay. So one quick tip this week, find 3 things. Cause I think the lie for a lot of people is I don't have enough time to start the business.
Right.
Find 3 things that you can cut out of your life or cut out of your schedule. And, maybe it's people, like a certain person that's just like draining you and it's one-sided and they call and vent about their boyfriend or whatever, or their husband. Mm-hmm. And it's not life-giving. Maybe you need to just sort of cut that off right now. Maybe it's a habit that isn't serving you, like watching hours of Netflix or scrolling and comparing yourself on social media. Or maybe it's just like moving your schedule around a little bit so that you can find more time. So, let's just say you can work from home with your job and you don't have to commute to an office. Like maybe take advantage of that. Because I think that there is so much extra time that we don't always see. And again, we are held back because we think there's not enough. But if you can create more time, then you can show yourself, okay, there actually is a little bit more time. So now maybe I can start working toward that dream. And then with that, I would say, like, don't feel like you have to figure it all out at once. Every single day, just do one small thing that will get you closer to that dream that scares you, that takes you out of your comfort zone. And if you can do that before you know it, you're going to be there.
I love all 3 of those. Like, I love that advice because those are all good. Yes, please get rid of whoever it is or whatever it is that's not serving you, because you don't have time for that.
No.
Even if you're not starting a business, get rid of it.
Yes.
It's just better for your life. Wow. So I'm going to ask you, what was your favorite part of the book? Like, what was your favorite part of writing or telling about the book? And if you were to do the whole book writing series thing over again, what would you change, if anything?
Oh, so my favorite, this is a hard question. My favorite part of the book. You know what? I think it's the conclusion, to be honest, because it's one of my favorite parts because it's really short and it actually was meant to be a love letter to the person receiving the book at the start of the book. I had this idea of like writing this love letter to open the book with a love letter. And we decided at the end, I wasn't quite sure how I wanted to conclude it. And we realized like this would actually be a really powerful ending. So we moved it to the back and that's the conclusion.
Oh, now I can't wait to get to the end of the book, y'all. Okay.
And then the next question, if I did it all over again, the thing is I am going to do it all over again. I had a 5-week deadline over Christmas to write a follow-up for this. And then I have a deadline in September to write the next like nonfiction book that's going to come out after this. So I think actually this is what I would do, is that I would have made it a little bit easier for myself. I would have had a little bit more help with the kids, like I would have set myself up to have a little more childcare. And also, I think I would have done it a lot faster if I had just like done a big brain dump and had someone to sort of help me edit a little bit and like put my thoughts together.
Right.
And yeah, I think that's what I would do.
Okay, so when you listen to this episode and you're getting ready to write that book and you haven't done this, now you know.
Yeah.
Like, I just need to go do that.
Totally. Yeah. Because the workbook that I just wrote, I mean, I was able to do in 5 weeks, and that's because I did like a huge brain dump, wrote the whole thing, and then had someone on my team. I just said, hey, can you like go in and like move things around if they need to be moved around and just help me make it sense. Like, have it make sense.
And I work like that too. I like brain dump so much easier than trying to put everything, like even my blog posts, I brain dump, please do something with it.
Yeah.
I give it to the VA and I'm like, please do something with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why I didn't do that.
Well, now you know, you like in your book, you have the experience, and now you know later to do that, to do it the next time you do this. Well, thank you so much, Kate, for being on the show. Please tell us how everyone can find you. Obviously, Thinking Like a Boss is out. You can get it on Amazon and all the things. But please tell us how we can find you on social world.
Thank you. This was such a fun conversation. So Instagram is my favorite place to hang out. Just my name, Kate Crocco. I have a podcast called Thinking Like a Boss. And the book you can find at any bookstore. And I always say, if you can support your local bookstore, look on indiebooks.com and see if they have a book there. Thank you so much.
All right, ladies, that's a wrap for this episode of She's Crafted to Thrive. Thank you so much for joining me. Please share with your friends and be sure to like and subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes. In the meantime, check us out at shescrafted.com to check out the show notes for all the goodies and things that we talked about. And there'll be links there for you guys. So in the meantime, just remember, you are crafted to thrive.